Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Ridge Community Church podcast. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors on staff at the Ridge, and our vision is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. So as a piece of that, our goal each week is to bring you something that's hopeful and helpful. So subscribe to this podcast to make sure you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Community Church podcast. If you find today's episode hopeful and helpful, then please follow or subscribe, and then rate and review so that more people can find the conversation. In today's episode, I got to chat with Ben Fink about his counseling journey. Ben made the decision to go to counseling earlier this year, and he shares with me what that experience has been like, the hesitations that he had going in, and some helpful thoughts on what to do if you're considering it. This is my conversation with Ben. Hi, Ben. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
John, glad to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to see you. Curious, would you mind just maybe introducing yourself and sharing how long you've been coming to the Ridge?
Yeah, for sure, dude. So my claim to fame at the Ridge is my wife is one of the worship leaders.
Yeah.
She does, she's a music arts specialist at the Ridge. And we started dating around 10 years ago. And she does worship, and now she does a lot of creative arts stuff around the church. And I started going to the Ridge when I met her, and it's been a long journey. It's been a long time listening to Mark and you at times, or Tyler, and all sorts of different people. And so, yeah, it's been at least 10 years of going to the Ridge now. And she is a full-time, like I said there, and I'm a full-time bartender. And, yeah, I'm in my mid-30s and got quite a big family. No kids of my own, but everyone's here local, and grew up in the church for sure. Yeah, I'm here now at the Ridge and living life, if you will.
Okay, so just curious, what's it like having like your significant other be, I don't want to say quote Ridge famous, right? But kind of, right? Where so Felicia gets a lot of time on stage and things like that.
There's a lot of paparazzi at the Ridge,
right?
So
yeah,
it's hard to navigate throughout the
yeah. So is it like, do lots of people like, will they recognize you without knowing or chatting with you, or how's that dynamic?
Yeah, actually that'll happen everywhere, which is kind of funny. They're like, oh, you're Felicia's husband.
Yeah.
She sings at the Ridge. I'm like, she sure does.
That's awesome.
But it actually does happen. It's a small world. You'd be shocked. Like, it happens all the time. And it's really cool, actually, because, you get to bring up just kind of how you met. And I mean, honestly, like, she's so talented. She's so good up there. And it's great to have someone that just excels at something that God's given them. And it's really, really cool to experience that. It really is.
Yeah. I love that. I also love it's I don't know, there's that cool source of pride when someone you really care about is succeeding and thriving and doing something great, and that's really cool. But hey, today, so we're going through this mental health series, Rewire. And so love to chat with you about kind of like the topic of what it's like to go through counseling. And I really appreciate you being willing to talk about this, because I know it can be a kind of a private or sensitive topic. And so yeah, I just appreciate you being willing to talk to me and share some of your story and your journey and what it's like to go through counseling. Because I know that can be a lot of people have a lot of assumptions and mentality about what it's like. And, some of it might be accurate and some of it might be way off base. And so I was curious, maybe you could start at the beginning. When you first, like, how did you feel or think about counseling in general before you went to it?
Well, there's a stigma. I mean, it's just, there's no way around it. There's a stigma about it. And there's even times where I'm a little like wincy in a conversation to kind of be like, yeah, I see someone, right? And so my journey is a little bit unique because um, I I didn't really necessarily truly understand the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist.
Hmm.
Um, because one just kind of talks through your problems, one talks through your issues, one talks through the things that you deal with, the other one pretty much just prescribes you medication.
Mm.
And so I think that's like the very first thing that I wish I would have understood better. But the reason I bring that up is because I first saw a um, someone that prescribed me medication. Okay,
Yeah.
and they would listen to some of the things that I dealt with, but it was more of like half an hour goes by, and then there's like, all right, well, let's like put you on this and see what happens.
Mm.
And I think everyone is different. I think everyone has different needs at the time, and that's who I saw it first. And I just kind of I didn't see anyone for a very long time then. I just would take the medication that was prescribed, like
Yeah.
just years and years and years. And then recently, um, I don't know exactly why, but I ended up meeting with Mark. We had lunch.
Hmm.
We just talked. This was like months ago. And it was a great conversation. It was just some things that I wanted to kind of hash out, some things that was going on with my career and just like a life stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I want you to go to, I want you to see a psychiatrist. Just talk through this stuff. I just think like that would be really healthy for you. So I decided, I've never actually done that before. It was just always kind of like a doctor's appointment-ish kind of a thing. But I was like, let's try this. I haven't really done it. And the reason I
Yeah.
didn't do it is because, God, this is so true. Like guys just don't want to go to the doctor, whether it's for your mental health or for your physical health. Like they just don't want to go. Like that's so true. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, you know what though? I probably should. I think this will be good for me. And it helped to have Mark kind of just like nudge me in the right direction. And he gave me a great resource to go to. And so I've been seeing someone now. I want to say for like 3 or 4 months, but it's just been really nice. I started off seeing someone for like once a week, and now it's every other week. And it was just really nice to talk through some things that I deal with. And I'm now at a place where I wish I was years ago, but I'm really happy I'm still here in this place because it's going to give me the ability to process through a lot of things that I deal with. And it's been just an incredible time for me because I'm able to, like I said, process through things. And look, here's the thing too, is that, it's really easy to talk to a family member or a close friend or a significant other about your mental health. And I think that stuff is healthy. But I also think there's a power there that is hard to describe or verbalize when you go and you talk with someone that's a licensed therapist that understands you. It, of course, has to be a good fit, but understands you and can kind of help work through some things. It's things that you deal with that may not be as big of a deal as you actually might think it is. Or there's other things that you kind of have to dig more into. And I think that there's so much power there. There's so much energy. There's a lot of healing that can take place and things that you can work through in those situations that you most likely wouldn't be getting from a family member or a significant other.
Is it like in the questions that they start asking? Is it like, hey, here's something that you can try? Because I think that you touch on a really good point where it's like, I don't know, it's easy. You put yourself in a position of the person listening to someone share about a mental health thing they're going through.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like, you're like, oh, I don't know what to say. Maybe I can ask a question, or, hey, hope you don't feel that way. You can listen and support that way. But when it comes to actually like practically like asking extra helpful questions or things like that, I don't know, just don't have that training.
Yeah, for sure. And you hit it on the head. It's part of the training of what they do. And so, they'll know how to ask the right questions to kind of get at the center of what you're dealing with. So there are times where it's like, oh yeah, why do I feel this way? Well, because of this. Well, why? Well, because of this. Well, why? And you kind of, it's like the 3-year-old question. So and then it's kind of like you're getting back to the basics, if you will. And it's really simple, but it's like it allows you to compartmentalize and just say, yeah, I guess when you look at it that way, it's not that big of a deal, right? And it's very, very helpful in that regard, to have someone that's trained, that knows how to question or how to go about certain things, to kind of unravel that onion, if you will. And then it's just like basic stuff too. Like, what kind of hobbies do you have? Well, I like doing this. Well, are you doing it? No. Well, why? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I love soccer. Like, I just love playing it, and I haven't played in a long time. I'm starting to play it now. So I have something to look forward to every week. So it's stuff like that, very practical stuff that's just really basic. But there will be times though where when you meet with a psychiatrist, if you have the right one, they'll be able to peel off some things and really pinpoint some things that can really help your mental health.
So you said a couple times, like the right one, the right fit. And I'm sure that the right fit is different for everybody, right? Based on personality, the things that they're helpful for or whatever. How did you know, how did you pick a counselor / or really like how did you know that the fit was a good one?
Yeah. I think with anything in life, it's about consistency. So, how do you know that your spouse loves you? Well, because of consistency. Just because she got you flowers once? No. So the way that I look at it is seeing someone multiple times and building that rapport. And if it's there and there's a consistency there, then it's the right one. Yeah. So there wasn't I just think it's really unhealthy to go in one time and be like, this person isn't for me. I think it's healthy to see consistency there. So that's the first thing I would say. And the second thing is kind of backing up off that one point. But when you go and you find a psychiatrist, it's really important to read about their bio. A lot of these clinics do a great job of just saying, hey, I specialize in this. I've dealt with this. I've done this. So I think that's an important part of it too, is looking at what they specialize in, but also what demographic would you be comfortable talking to? Okay. Sure. So some people would be comfortable talking to someone in their 20s. Some people would be comfortable talking to someone much older. I'm more comfortable talking with someone more older, and of the opposite sex, because I just have that relatability, I feel like. So I picked that demographic, but it's all different for everyone. It just depends on what you're comfortable with, talking to you about those specific issues. So I think it's just a collection of things, like who you're comfortable talking to, the consistency of the conversations, how you interact with them over a period of, I'd say a month. And then if you're not comfortable, then there's nothing wrong with that. You just move on to someone else. But that's kind of how it happened for me, and it worked out fine.
No, I think that illustrates, two really big principles, right? Or one is they don't just, open up one quick Google search and pick the first name you see, look into it and just purposely pick someone that you want to try that you feel like would be a good fit for you, and then give them a shot, right? You give them an actual chance where it's not, one and done. So I'm curious if you take back maybe before the first session you had, did you have apprehension going into that? What did you expect it to be like, and how did it maybe differ?
Well, I think anyone's gonna have apprehension. Mental health is something that luckily we're getting a lot better as a society attacking.
Yeah.
But there's always apprehension there. I mean, here's the thing is like when you deal with mental health issues, which everyone does, there's such a buildup there. There's
Mm.
such a there's just such a huge closet full of stuff that you just don't get out. It's not like exercise, like physical, where you, if you need to, you can go run for 10 minutes and get something out. But like mental health is just, you need to verbalize it. You need to come out and just talk about the things that bother you. And that's very rare in our society that we do that. It's rare in a lot of societies. So there's apprehension there because you want to make sure you're saying the right things. You want to make sure that you're correctly conveying the things that you struggle with that
Yeah.
person. That's why it's important to go multiple times. But no, there's apprehension all day. But once you get there and you realize how the psychiatrist is very professional and like they do a great job of just understanding what you're going through, that quickly wanes. So it's kind of like jumping in that pool, right? So it's kind of like the first shock, but then it's like they know what they're doing. You can trust these people. This is for your good. This is going to be very healthy for your future, your relationships. So I think if you have that in the back of your mind, and that's going to be a big help, if you will.
Yeah.
With the apprehension side of it. But yeah, I mean, I think there's always that. I mean, think about it. If you go, to a doctor because you're sick, you're going to have a little bit of apprehension there. I think just, human nature is a little bit of an unknown there. So you just don't know how certain things are. That's just life. But I think as long as you have like the right mindset at the end of the day, you should, you can get through it.
Yeah. Was there anything that maybe surprised you about what counseling was like?
I suppose what surprised me was just getting back to the basics, the foundation, how simple it can be to work on things. Because I think a lot of times we look at mental health as just a huge ball of wax, right? And you're just like, I got to deal with this, and that, and that, and this. But then you start just getting back to basics, right? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? Are you exercising? Are you eating well? Are you are you spending time with your family? Are you the basics, right? And then you start being like, no, I'm not. And then you start kind of just putting things in perspective and putting things at the foundation. And you start saying, oh, now I feel better just by doing simple things. I think the problem is that we feel like there's complex solutions to our complex problems, but it's not always that. It's always maybe just the basics. It could be something as like, oh, my finances are in whack. That's the only reason I have anxiety or depression. And you might not even realize it.
Yeah.
I think we'd be shocked at how simple some of the cures could be, if you will. I don't want to use the word cure, but just to kind of alleviate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that we, especially in like America, everything is so like advertisements in your face and getting this and doing that and just running ourselves, getting burned out. And I think that a lot of it has to do with just getting back to basics, just having some peace. And I think people don't realize how much that can go, how far that can go. And having a psychiatrist, kind of like I said earlier, peeling back the why onion, why, and then it gets back to the root of something. So that's what surprised me. It surprised me how simple it can be to get out of a rut or burnout or anxiety. Not saying it is simple, but it can be, just depending on that kind of stuff.
This may be a hard question. Was there any hesitation? 'Cause I'm sure for anybody, like you're getting asked these kind of, I think in some questions, maybe challenging questions that people haven't asked before. I don't know. Is there any temptation or hesitancy when you're trying to like answer it? I don't want to say honestly, but I don't know. Somebody's asking you hard questions and that can be like a hard thing to answer and process through and be vulnerable,
Yeah. So that's where I think the consistency comes in.
Yeah.
of seeing someone every week, because then I think the more you get comfortable, the more willing you're able to open up.
Yeah.
So I think that at first, yes, 100%. But then as you gain trust and you've gained this relationship with a psychiatrist, then stuff can start becoming more clear.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple in that regard. But at first, absolutely. I mean, you're going to be very hesitant. You're like, I don't really know this person. I don't really want to. But that's, if you go every week, you start really analyzing things that you deal with, and you're becoming more and more open about things because you're more comfortable.
I wonder if a helpful mindset then going in is not to have the expectation that you'll feel comfortable immediately,
Oh,
like,
sure.
Like in coming in with the expectation, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's not like a quick fix. It's like hey, no, like I'll go in knowing that it may take a little bit of time to build that relationship, to feel comfortable, to feel like I can be authentic, and then kind of working up to that. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's very fair. I think that that's fine to have too. I don't think that. Yeah, like especially what you said, like in our society, everything's quick fix, right? Everything is quick, 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 quick. Just understand this is a journey. Like this truly is a journey. This is going to be something that takes a long time, but you will feel so much better quickly. But it'll take time to continue to work on those things. So
yeah, maybe could you share a little bit about how maybe it's impacted you, like from the beginning to like processing through to how you're feeling now, and kind of that ongoing thought process?
Well, I mean, I could give you like something specific that I deal with. I'm fine with that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I deal with, I don't think I was ever really like diagnosed with this, but I have really bad like agoraphobia. So what that is it's like fear of getting out of a familiar place where you live. So some people have it where they're like housebound. I don't have that. For me, it's more along the lines of regional, if you will. So I hate traveling. Let me put it that way. Like I cannot stand traveling. Like if I am in a spot where I don't feel comfortable or I haven't been before, or I'm really far from home, like I go nuts. I can't handle it. So, so your question was basically like, how has it kind of alleviated, if you will?
Yeah. Or how has the journey been helpful? How has impacted you?
Yep. So like when I started seeing my psychiatrist, she just did a great job of just saying like I said earlier, like why. So she'll be like, so why do you feel that way? And so I'll say, well, because I'm not by home. I don't have like easy access to my bed. I don't have easy access to making food. It's a control thing at the end of the day, right? Because it's like I want to be able to like make eggs if I want. I want to be able to like watch TV if I want. I want to be able to do this if I want. I want to be able to go to the basement if I want. And it's just like a comfort thing. It's a control thing. And so then she'll say, well, let's just say you were an hour away and you were at a hotel. What? How big of a difference is that? And so we started peeling back that onion, and we were like, okay, well, if you really wanted eggs, you could go to the store and get eggs if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to, and like, then to be clear, like, I don't have like a obsession about eggs. I'm just using these as examples.
Ben loves eggs. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. But it's at the end of the day, it's a control thing. So the process is that what is there really that big of a difference between you being at home and being somewhere else? And kind of where you get to the point of saying, not really, when you think about it. You can have your phone with you. You can go to the store if you have it. You have GPS. You can go somewhere. If you want to go see a movie, you have the ability to do that. Even though you're not familiar with an area, you still have tools to use that can make you familiar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's stuff like that throughout the process. And obviously I did like a crash course on that. But it's stuff like that you'll be able to work through. And there was a time in my life, this was years ago, where I couldn't even get out of my house. Like, it was terrible. Um, but um, but growth and seeing someone and all that stuff has been phenomenal in that process. So, um, you guys might deal with stuff. That's like one of the main things I deal with. And as silly as that is to someone, um, that's just what I've been able to help process. Now I'm open to traveling again. I'm open to going places. I'm open to doing that stuff. So it's been great. The process definitely helps, but it is a journey.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Ben. I really appreciate that. I think that's something that, you know, like that's challenging. Like that's really hard. Like feeling that way and not necessarily knowing why you feel that way, and processing through that. So thanks for being willing to share with us and kind of share some of your journey as you're going through that. I really love the way you just depicted like uncovering what's the heartbeat behind and how it's the issue wasn't this thing that you thought it was at the very top, but it was like these layers underneath of control and these different things that maybe you wouldn't have naturally connected without kind of being able to chat with somebody who would ask you really good questions.
Yeah. And the thing too is like just the way that I would like my childhood when I grew up, there was not a lot of control in my life. And there was a lot, like we moved a ton, financial issues, like all that stuff. And that's a lot of things that I deal with. And I've found that that's at the core of things that have kind of built these anxieties in me. And so, it's not just about the things you're dealing with now, but things that you dealt with back in the day when you were a kid, and then kind of how you developed. And so that's really important to note, because to understand who we are is really important. God is a great God, and he's in control of everything. And the reason I bring that up as well is because it's interesting, or it's not interesting, but it's important to understand that our surroundings can shape us as well. And God cares a lot about us. And that's why it's so important to understand where we came from, understand how we were raised. And God's always been there. He's always been there through everything. And so it's important to have that mindset too as a Christian, because he's never left us. He's always been there for us. And although bad things could have happened to us in the past and unfortunately shape some of the tendencies that we have now, you can still call on him. He was there when that happened. You can talk to him about those things. You can talk to him about relinquishing those things on you. And it's so important to have that relationship with God, because he knows more than you know. He knows more than anyone knows. And I think that that's a really important perspective to have as well.
You kind of touched on it a little bit there, but how has having this faith in Jesus like kind of interwoven with the kind of mental health journey process?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've read a lot of books about how Jesus talks about anxiety and worry and how it's used all the time. And he says, like, in this world, you're going to have troubles. He doesn't say, like, if you believe me, you're going to be good.
Yeah.
You're all, that's not how that works. When we look at Apostle Paul, he was imprisoned for his faith. He was, I mean, it's not a ticket out of jail. When you believe in Jesus, it isn't, but it makes it so much easier, because who's in control. At the end of the day, God wins. That you'll be with God at the end. And so as long as you have that mindset, if you will, and you have those values in your head and you live out those values, that helps your depression, your anxiety, because that there's that light at the end of the tunnel. And I know what I'm saying is cliche, but it's true. I mean, God is the ultimate controller. He's been there. He will be there. He is here. And it's so important to have that as the foundation. You know, like I said, getting back to the basics, um, he he needs to be your foundation. Because when he's your foundation, um, that will help you grow and get out of some of the things that you deal with.
I'm curious. You mentioned like the element of like the wanting control, right? And I think all of us have that element in us to some extent, right?
Right.
Um, I think that's so natural. I think everybody has this battle of control, and if who will have control, and if they don't have control, how they feel about it. But how does that balance with this understanding that God is in control, and that, I mean, I'm sure part of the solution to the things you're going through is like kind of giving that control back to God. Is that a fair thought? Is like, how is that, if that's been true, like how has that looked for you?
No, it's been great in that regard because I remember there's been like periods in my life where I was able to do that. But then, like I said, it's you have to maintain that value system. You have to keep that in at like the forefront. Like that has to be constantly on your mind. Um, because I do believe that you're attacked spiritually. You are 100%, and your thoughts and your feelings and all that, you're attacked. And so if you don't have that constantly going in your head, that hey, God is here, He's with me, Jesus is here, and reading the Bible, listening to worship music, just being very present with those things, that's going to be a huge hurdle.
Are there any practical things that you do to help keep it in the front of your mind?
Listen to worship music on my way to work. Um, I just, I don't know. I just think about it. It's just, I try to always have that on my mind. Like God's in control. It's all good. And don't make anything bigger than it actually is because, like I said, God is in control. It's really simple for me. It might be a little more challenging for other people.
Sure.
But I'm just like, whatever, you get to that point. But I think like it's about the journey once again. It's about like the foundation of how you start your day. It's about how you start your week, how you want to approach life. Putting the right things of importance in your life. Be intentional about leaning into God every day, whatever that is, whether that's music, whether that's reading scripture, whether that's listening to a message, right? So
Yeah.
those things are huge. Just making that a part of your day, making God a part of your day, and then always in prayer, who's always in your mind, thinking about those types of things. That's important, but everyone's different. So
I think that is such a good point. Cause I think that there's this tendency, and it's easy to fall into, where it's like, we want this, I'll call it the service boost. Some people Thursday, some people it's Sunday, or whenever they kind of engage with a message or church service. And then kind of maybe it's easy to try to rely on that as like, oh, here's my boost for the week, Mm-hmm. And not that there's anything, like, obviously big proponent of going to service. But as you said, it's that daily element that helps keep it in the forefront of our mind and kind of lets us continue to rely on that instead of just having, oh, what talked about on Sunday, and I love that you mentioned like listening to worship music as you drive into work. Cause I do think that like starting your day keeps stuff in your mind, right? Like however you start your day, like for whatever reason, when we sleep, it kind of maybe removes a little bit about the day before, but the morning I think is a time where it can be really helpful. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. And I think having a rhythm, having a daily, routine, if you will, helps. Don't marry that because it's not always, you're going to wake up certain days and just not feel like you're going to want to do something. So you don't want to marry that, but having a routine is really healthy. Just so you have something to be like, all right, well, I didn't do my routine today, but I'll do it the next day. And so within that, yes, you can put something in there that's going to help you focus on God 100%. Well, that's great. But I also wanted to kind of like circle back quick to like like you said, like that daily or that weekly boost, if you will. I think that's why small groups are so important. I'm personally not in a small group. I actually would like to be. I'm trying to work on that with my schedule. But I think that that's another way to engage, have like a Wednesday night, Tuesday night thing, just to kind of keep that going. That can be really helpful for some people to make sure you're maintaining that the word of God or the relationship going. So that's really important too. I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Love that. Hey, Ben, last question for me. Somebody is listening to this and they're on the fence about counseling, or they've kind of had that self-talk of being like, I don't really need to go. I'm fine. Or I don't really want to talk to somebody about this stuff, I think a lot of people are in that place. What would you say to them?
God wants you to go. I think everyone should see a psychiatrist. I think everyone deals with things, and it took me years to eventually go, and Mark helped me with that. But man, it does do wonders. Like, it really does. Even if you go once a month, just something to look forward to, something to be able to process a lot of the things that you deal with. Everyone deals with stuff. Every single person deals with stuff. Just try it one time. Just try it. Because I think you'd be shocked at how it affects your relationships, your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. Do it. Because I think it's really, really important.
Boom. Dude, Ben, thanks so much for chatting with me. Thanks very much for sharing your story, your journey, and just your great perspective. So thanks for chatting with me.
No, this was great. I appreciate you, John.
Well, that was my conversation with Ben, and I really appreciate the thought and process that goes behind picking a counselor and giving it a try. When you pick a counselor, it's important to research and find someone that you think would be a good fit for you. In today's show notes, we'll have a link to our Rewire series resource page, and there you'll be able to find lots of different resources, but also ones that specifically deal with finding a counselor. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Podcast, and make sure to follow and subscribe so that you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations.